An elderly Filipina was assaulted in an unprovoked attack on a San Diego trolley in the U.S. Now, according to ABC 10 News, the suspect, an unidentified man, allegedly punched the woman for no apparent reason. Now, nearby witnesses reported that they helped the woman report the incident to the police, and she was treated at a local hospital. However, no arrest has been reported. JoAnn, a community advocate and director of the Filipino Resource Center, told ABC 10 News that she was upset about the incident. Now, President Biden and Vice President Harris condemned the rising xenophobia and racism on the Asian and Pacific Islander community, and both called for increased protection of the API community. Today, we have JoAnn, the director of the Filipino Resource Center, to discuss the current race situation in the United States. Hello, JoAnn, and welcome to the program.
Hello, Alma. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yes, please tell us first about your the Filipino Resource Center. Tell us what this center is all about.
Yes. As we know, COVID-19 has impacted us locally and worldwide, and it actually magnified what we need in the San Diego community, what we're lacking, where Filipinos can receive information on vaccinations, testing, but now we are experiencing anti-Asian attacks. And we believe it stems from the previous president because of continued remarks of calling the coronavirus the Chinese virus, and implicating that Asians are the reason why this virus has spread. And so we believe the attack that the news reports that we received in the community, an 80-year-old Lola was attacked on the trolley. She entered the trolley in southeastern San Diego, where there is a large Filipino community. And we heard that unprovoked, a man attacked her on the trolley, hit her on the head. And witnesses saw her and tended to her and helped her file the report. And now we need a place like the Resource Center so that when an incident like this, we can advocate for our Lola. Now we can advocate in the community to be vigilant, to be aware that this is happening, like what we're seeing throughout the whole United States. We've heard of the incidents in New York City where a Filipino man was slashed across his face when he was riding the train. These incidents need to be reported. More importantly, we need to increase the awareness of how to protect ourselves, whether it is while you're commuting or also to protecting yourself against COVID-19. And again, COVID-19 just magnified what we don't have in the Filipino community. And that's why we have a group of Filipino community stakeholders that feel the same way. And so we are now collaborating together so that we have a resource center to give correct information and more importantly, connections to the programs and services so that our community can thrive.
Now, do you think that during this pandemic, this anti-racial or anti-Asian rather crimes have increased?
Yes, we have seen an uptick in these type of hate crimes. And because of this incident and with other Asian groups, we are now working with the San Diego County District Attorney, Summer, so that we can, again, connect our community to resources, how to report. We believe the numbers of crimes are actually larger, but because of fear of retaliation, not knowing where to file these reports, that we believe that the numbers are actually higher. So again, we are partnering with our government offices so that we can collect the data and more real-time numbers and information.
How large is the ethnic community there in San Diego?
Well, according to the U.S. Census in 2010, we're still waiting for the 2020 census data to come in. But according to the 2010 census data, amongst all Asian Pacific Islanders, nearly half of the Asian Pacific Islander community in San Diego is of Filipino descent, amounting to nearly 200,000 Filipinos. And we have reports that San Diego is actually the second largest Filipino community in the United States.
And a report from the United Nations found that there were more than 1,800 racist incidents against Asian Americans from March to May of 2020. What do you believe is fueling these attacks?
Again, the previous administration making racist remarks that this is a Chinese virus, and just continuing that rhetoric, we believe just add fuel to the fire, that we had to be the scapegoat. And then the reaction for those that follow that message is who's attacking our community. So we need to, again, remain vigilant and be aware of our surroundings. And thank you for the opportunity to be on your show so that we can spread this information. Because if it's happening in San Diego, we know there's reports happening in the Bay, in New York, in Chicago, in very large Filipino communities. But I'm sure there's reports internationally. And we need to, again, remain vigilant.
What are other signs of prejudice or discrimination are there for the Asian community or Pacific Islanders? Yes.
Well, we know that there's the physical attacks, but also the verbal attacks. If you viewed the interview we had with Channel 10, there was also a former Uber driver where he quit. He let go of his position there because of fear of comments. The verbal abuse may just accelerate into physical harm. So there's the verbal, there's physical abuse, but also we are experiencing the lack of, again, magnified of the lack of support as far as programs and services, language access. So that's why we now advocate. We're advocating that we need our fair share. We need our fair share of resources, again, language access, so that we can better protect our community. We now are, most in my generation, we are U.S. citizens, but we are proud of our Filipino descent, and that we need to protect one another.
True. President Biden laid out plans to combat racism early on, and he said America is ready to change. And we can see that this administration is really very sympathetic to human rights issues. Do you think what triggered President Biden rather, to raise the concern early on in his administration, and what government units are directly working with groups like yours in addressing racially induced hate crimes?
Well, I think the fact that he's listening to his constituency, not only here in San Diego, but throughout the United States, we are pleading for help, and I believe he is listening to that. We need disaggregated data so that we can learn if we are actually moving the needle. Are we moving in the direction that we need to? Are we able to access resources like the vaccine to testing and treatment? Here in San Diego, we are working with the county Health and Human Services Agency. We're working with our local municipalities, our mayors, our county board of supervisors, our state assembly and Congress, all levels of government. And it has to start from the top. So starting with President Biden, recognizing the Filipino and Asian Pacific Islander community is very important. Again, we need to make sure from the top down that we know that we are in the community, that we are afforded the programs and services on all levels, but also that there's a cultural competency, that the outreach to make sure that we know where to get testing so that we feel comfortable to go get tested, to get the vaccine. A lot of our healthcare workers, in some instances, we are nearly 40% of the workforce in healthcare, whether it's in a skilled nursing facility, a home care, or in the hospital. We have a large Filipino workforce. So when we hear that, not only are we asking for services as a patient, but also to protect the frontliners that are out front. And I believe with this administration, we're obtaining more support, that it is recognized that COVID-19 is a real virus and that our community needs the help. And I believe it's coming and it's here. So now, again, we have to just remain vigilant and voice ourselves. So again, that's how the Filipino Resource Center evolved and came about, because we saw that we were lacking support. Now it's coming in because we have a point organization, we have community stakeholders involved, and we're moving in the right direction.
What about, you mentioned vaccines, and what about vaccine centers? Have you heard of any harassment or maybe anti-vaxxers from the pro-Trump supporters? Any rallies or happening there?
Yeah. Yes, we have quite a few super centers here in San Diego. More notable anti-vaxxers we heard shutting down in the Los Angeles region, part of Southern California. So we are aware, and because we receive this awareness, we can act accordingly. And luckily here in San Diego, there hasn't been a major disruption. They are out there, but again, because we have protocols in place and information that we receive and are able to share in our community, that we have not had a disruption in accessing the vaccines.
Going forward, how do you see the future of race relations there in the United States?
Well, I can speak to San Diego specifically. Just yesterday, there was an appointment to a newly formed Office of Race and Inclusion in the County of San Diego. Again, that's a step in the right direction. Andrew Strong was named the director, but he is very well connected in the Filipino and Asian Pacific Islander community. So it's really promising. Not only are they naming an office, but they're also creating a budget so that we can have outreach and education and also language access. So we really look forward to offices like this, programs, and point people that look like us in the community to close the gaps of service.
Do you have any message for everybody watching you right now regarding this issue?
Well, I would like to share with the community, San Diego and worldwide, please remain vigilant. Please make sure that you are aware of your surroundings, because there is this surge and uptick in anti-Asian communities, that we are the scapegoats of this COVID-19, but we very well know that we are not. But more importantly, please report. Report to your local district attorney. Report it to your local police department, so that we know that if we see this trend, that we don't want what happened to our 80-year-old plus Lola that was riding on public transportation in San Diego. We don't want anyone to be harmed. And we will only know this if it is reported. There are protections for you, and we must work together with you, especially in the media, to get the word out. that we are vigilant and we are resilient. And really thank you for this opportunity to share what's going on here in San Diego and what we're seeing internationally.
Thank you very much. This is a continuing issue in the United States, not only in the United States, because it has, as you said, has already spread around the world in different countries. And thank you for groups like yours, which are looking after which are steadfastly on guard, looking after the incidents of anti-Asian prejudice and hate crimes. Thank you very much. JoAnn Fields, Director of Filipino Resource Center. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alma.